This is a reading of Acts chapter 21, verses 17 through 26. I like this passage because it gives a proper perspective to the Apostle Paul or Shaul's approach to Torah and to even the customs of the Judeans. I often refer to this passage when I am sharing with people about my journey back to Torah because it shows definitively what the apostle actually taught as well as how he lived. I think it also then can give us good context for how to interpret the things that are written in his letters. I'm going to read from a version of the Bible called the Complete Jewish Bible. I will be making a few comments, my observations, my thoughts about what I'm reading here. Again, Acts chapter 21, beginning in verse 17. This is the testimony of Dr. Luke. In Jerusalem, the brothers received us warmly. Let me comment right here. Recognize that there is no conflict between the Apostle Paul or Shaul and the rest of the elders. We can see from earlier passages within the book of Acts that when there was conflict, Shaul was not one to shy away from it. He would step to any person at any time when he saw something that he felt was out of order. But this passage lets us know that there does not appear to be conflict because the brothers received them warmly. Continue with verse 18. The next day, Shaul and the rest of us went in to Yaakov, also known as James, and all the elders were present. After greeting them, Shaul described in detail each of the things God had done among the Gentiles through his efforts. On hearing it, they praised God. But they also said to him, "You see, brother, how many tens of thousands of believers there are among the Judeans, and they are all zealots for the Torah." Let me pause here. First of all, we are seeing that there are many, many, many Jews or Judeans who have come to faith in Yeshua. They are believers. Notice what he says about them. They are all zealots, or they are zealous for the Torah. Now, what we're commonly told in our churches is that Yeshua fulfilled the law, and therefore it had served its purposes, and it was no longer a factor in the life of the believers. We're told that Shaul, or the Apostle Paul especially, was one primarily teaching that believers no longer need to follow Torah. Now, here's my question. If that was true, and here we are decades later, how is it that all these believers who have been hearing the message of Yeshua and even hearing the message of Paul, how is it that they can remain zealous for Torah when clearly the apostles would have been teaching them that that no longer had a function in their lives? Perhaps, just perhaps, that's not what they were being taught, and so they remain zealous for Torah. Let's keep reading and see. Verse 21. Now, what they have been told about you is that you are teaching all the Jews living among the Goyim to apostatize from Moshe, telling them not to have a Brit Milah, or circumcision, for their sons, and not to follow their traditions. Again, notice the elders are saying, this is what the people are being told about you. By saying it's what they're hearing about you or hearing about Shaul, they're distinguishing him from them. In other words, this is not the testimony that is held concerning the rest of the elders. The rest of the elders are not accused of telling Jews among the Gentiles to no longer follow Moshe, to no longer circumcise their children, to no longer follow the customs. The only person who has this reputation is Shaul. Now again, if the rest of the elders were teaching the message that Torah no longer had a place in the life of believers, that should have been the reputation that they all shared. But only Paul, only Shaul had that reputation. And now notice what the elders want to do given that Shaul has his reputation. They ask in verse 22, "What then is to be done? They will certainly hear that you have come. So do what we tell you. We have 4 men who are under a vow. Take them with you, be purified with them, and pay the expenses connected with having their heads shaved. Then everyone will know that there is nothing to these rumors, which they have heard about you, but that, on the contrary, you yourself stay in line and keep the Torah. Notice they are giving him a task to perform with the intent of disproving the rumors. They are hoping that by this very public act, he will be able to squash the rumors and demonstrate once and for all that there is nothing to them. In other words, they are false, they are inaccurate, they are incorrect. And so they ask him to participate in a very specific process defined in Torah. It is a process by which those who are under a Nazirite vow complete their vow. Now, as they continue, they reaffirm what they said concerning the Goyim, or concerning the Gentiles, as was decided in Acts chapter 15. They say, however, in regard to the Goyim, who have come to trust in Yeshua, we all joined in writing them a letter with our decision that they should abstain from what had been sacrificed to idols, from blood, from what is strangled, and from fornication. Perhaps in a follow-up video, I'll share with you that those things also come from Torah. But right now, we're just talking about Shaul. Now, before we continue, let's summarize. The elders are talking to Shaul, and they're letting him know, rumor has it that you're telling Jews who live among Gentiles not to follow Torah, not to keep the customs, not to circumcise their children. We want you to make an open show of a specific Torah act to disprove all those rumors. Now, Paul, or Shaul, has the decision to make right here. He can either go along with what they're asking, or he can say absolutely not. Well, if he is teaching the Jews among the Gentiles not to follow Torah, not to keep the customs, not to circumcise their children, certainly we can expect him to say, brothers, there's no way I'm going to do that. What they've heard about me is true. I am telling Jews among the Gentiles not to follow Torah, not to follow the customs, not to circumcise their children. And I'm not going to make a charade here just for things to be comfortable for you. Again, we've seen his history. He confronts those who are opposing the gospel. So we can look at Shaul's response to their request as evidence of whether or not the rumor was true or false. What does he do? Continue verse 26. The next day, Shaul took them in, purified himself along with them, and entered the temple to give notice of when the period of purification would be finished and the offering would have to be made for each of them. Shaul goes along with what they're asking of him. Why would he do that? Because he wants to accomplish what they set out to accomplish, to disprove the rumor. He wants to make an open show that he walks orderly, that he follows Torah, and that he teaches other Jews to follow Torah. And again, not just other Jews, he teaches all Jews, but the question is especially about those who are believers. And they're letting him know his teaching, as well as his own lifestyle, is that believing Jews should continue following Torah, continue following the customs, continue circumcising their children. Why would he say this? It's what all the elders were saying. It's what all the apostles were saying. In fact, it's what Yeshua himself said. Do you see it?